76 topic is lighten things up. Sunlight and laughter. That's what cure most fears and worries. Terrifying problems are better solved in the light than in the dark. And there are many ways to bring them into the light. There are many ways to bring them into the light. Pick a frightening problem, then do the following. Pick a frightening problem and then do the following. Talk about it with someone. Draw a illustrated map of it. Draw a illustrated map of it on a huge piece of paper. Make top 10 list about the problem. Make top 10 list about the problem. Tell yourself some jokes about the problem. Sing about the problem and finally dance. A dance that expresses the problem. A dance that expresses that problem. If you do all these things, I promise you that your problem will seem a lot funnier and less frightening than it once did. If you do all these things, I promise you that your problem will seem a lot funnier and less frightening than it once did. It is impossible to laugh deeply and be frightened at the same time. It is impossible to laugh deeply and be frightened at the same time. G.K. Chesterton used to say that taking things lightly, taking things lightly was the most spiritually advanced things you could do to improve your effectiveness in life. To improve your effectiveness in life. After all, said Chesterton, it's because God's angels take themselves so lightly that they are able to fly. The God angels take themselves so lightly that they are able to fly. And if his angels take themselves that lightly, imagine how much more lightly he takes himself. My friend Knipe, my friend Fred Knipe, is the three times Emmy Award winning television writer. Three times Emmy Award winning television writer who also performed a comedian in the character of Dr. M.F. Ludiker, who also performs a comedian in the character of Dr. M.F. Ludiker, world expert on everything, world expert on everything. Fred is one of the funniest human being I have ever known. The Fred is one of the funniest human beings I have ever known. He never fails to lighten me up, no matter how big the problem I have. He never fails to lighten me up, no matter how big the problem I have. Dr. Ludiker mounted the stage and put his Ludiker Institute logo in front of the podium. A logo that features a cartoon human beings hanging between two electrical towers. A logo that features a cartoon human beings hanging between two electrical towers. He then proceeds to give, in a mild Teutonic accent, his advice from hell. He then proceeds to give, in a mild Teutonic accent, that advice from hell. With the increase of in domestic violence, with the increase in domestic violence, the doctor says, I am advocating that the home appliance manufacturer begins installing airbags. On the subject of our growing intolerance of crime, on the subject of our growing intolerance of crime, he says criminals among the most deeply tense in our community will soon have trouble recruiting top people. Will soon have trouble recruiting top people because they can no longer escape the sense that there is a resentment building about what they do for the living. There is a resentment building about what they do for a living. It was inevitable, he observed, that genetic engineering would come from generation that played Mr. Potato Head. It was inevitable that genetic engineering would come from the generation that played Mr. Potato Head. Knife's editing of my writing also caused me to lighten up. Knife's editing of my writing also caused me to lighten up. While making helpful handwritten notes on the manuscript for this book, he recommended that I refer to the Lokata Shaman Laman deer as a super Shaman Laman deer. While going through my recovery from frightening disease that featured at one point uncontrolled bleeding, he left me a comforting he left me a comforting phone message that said, "Don't worry about the bleeding. It's normal for someone your age. It's normal for someone your age." He left me a comforting phone message. It's a comforting phone message. Fred shares my long held belief. Fred shares my long held belief that humor is the highest form of creativity. Humor is the highest form of creativity. It's the hardest to produce and the most enjoyable to receive. Human humor, like all other creativity, is the matter of making unusual combinations. Humor, like all other creativity, is the matter of making unusual combinations. The more surprising the combinations, the more funnier the humor. The more surprising the combinations, the funnier the humor. The more funnier the humor. Your own motivational level will always be lifted by humor. Your own motivational level will always be lifted by humor. Anytime you are stuck, always ask yourself to take things lightly. Ask yourself to come up with some funny situation. Lighter laughter. Laughter will destroy all the limits to your thinking. When you are laughing, you are open to anything. When you are laughing, you are open to anything.